Welcome to the Weekly Gaming Blast, your source of all weekly gaming news, unhinged. I'm your host, AkibanaZero.
And I'm Brew the Gamer. Hello.
And sandwiched between the two of us, right now, right on your screens, is a very, very special guest. For some of you, he needs no introduction whatsoever. But for the sake of people who may not know him, this is Daniel Dillips. Daniel, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Daniel is a diamond-ranked Street Fighter V player, and because today's episode is gonna be about Street Fighter V, we thought it was very appropriate to bring him on the show.
Well, now I'm a super diamond player.
Excuse me, Super Diamond. That's
Not like you to be
great.
behind the times and not up to date with your information, Akibana.
I know, terrible.
I have to stay up to date on all things Dillips. I know. I mean, I'm probably terrible at that. I'm sorry. How you doing, Ruben?
I am very well, thank you. Fresh from a tournament in which I did disastrously yesterday, but I'm optimistic, so it's fine.
What did you play?
Under Night in Birth ST and Blaze Blue Central Fiction.
Nice.
Went out immediately in both tournaments, so definitely didn't do too well, but it just gives me a drive to do better next year.
Well, keep practicing. I guess that's
I will do
that's
now.
the message of the day. Yeah, I need to come with you to some of these tournaments. By the way.
I'll shout you when the next one is.
Awesome. Cool. Daniel, how are things in Worthing?
Well, there's nothing much going on in Worthing, but there's a lot going on in my gaming schedule. So, for example, I've just got too many games to play. While playing Street Fighter V, I've been doing some Divinity Original Sin 2, which I'm sure
Ooh.
I'm sure last episode you were talking about that, weren't you?
Yes, I've actually started playing that myself, but I'll get into that when we talk about weekly games.
Yeah.
So how are you finding it though so far?
Brilliant. Really, it's incredibly in depth, and it's like unlike other RPGs, you feel like all the battles and stuff you've had in the environment really change the environment you're actually in, and it's very. I don't know quite how to describe it, but there's so many layers of gameplay in it. When you advance your character, for example, your other skills sort of correlate. So, for example, if you've got healing skills and necromancer skills, you get like blood rain and stuff like that. It's so in depth, and the text also everything is narrated. So there's no like unlike it's been compared to like Baldur's Gate and stuff like that, but it actually narrates everything that's going on, which I think is quite unique for an RPG like that.
I found it pretty similar to Baldur's Gate, and I've heard about that as well, which what attracted me to that one. So since we're mentioning that stuff, Daniel, what else have you been playing this week?
Cuphead. I've been streaming that.
Yeah.
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 It's a fabulous 2D shooting game, and it's sort of marketed as being like the Dark Souls of side-scrolling shoot 'em ups. But it's really fair. If you know the routes, if you will die because you just won't know what's coming. But when you learn it, it's a very rewarding finish, and it's just the art style's very unique. Yeah. Oh, one sec.
It's getting a lot of praise, actually. Have you checked that out, Ruben?
I must admit, I've checked out Dillips' stream of Cuphead, which I've been enjoying watching, and I've watched various other streams of it. It looks like a great game. It's one of the games that makes me want to buy an Xbox, which I really hate the fact I'm saying that out loud. And but the big bugbear I've got at the moment is the whole comparison to Dark Souls thing. It's the Dark Souls or 2D platformers. That angers me beyond anything at the moment because it's not. It's not. It's nothing like Dark Souls. And the only thing I'll say to reviewers that say that is do your research. It's like Contra. It's not like Dark Souls. It's like Contra, you bloody idiots. Do your research. Comparing everything to Dark Souls is literally the biggest journalistic cliche right now, and that really annoys me.
It's like right now calling something the Dark Souls of something else, like looking for a holy grail that we don't even need to look for.
Yeah, especially seeing as Cuphead is like Contra. Seeing as I've played Contra 3 recently because I reviewed the SNES Mini and it's on there, I could see, literally playing Contra, I was like, wow, Cuphead, like, I can see where the inspirations come from because it has exactly the same philosophy, like video game overall design philosophy. But yeah, I really want to play Cuphead, but I cannot afford an Xbox One, not right now.
It's a great game though. It looks
you
like
can download it on Steam.
I don't have a PC, so
Not even a laptop.
He's
Nope.
a Mac guy.
I'm a Mac guy. So basically,
Ah.
about 80%
peace.
of the Steam library isn't available to me.
Exclusives. Bad. They're very bad for the industry. Right. So since we're on you, Ruben, what have you been up to this week? I know there's one game you can't really talk about.
Yeah, there's one game, the main game I'm playing this week, I can't talk about. I can't say a word about what it is that I'm playing, but it's good. Other than that, the other games I've been playing is, because I've been doing them for review, I've still been playing Layton's Mystery Journey, and I've been playing Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga on 3DS, and I'm almost at the end of Mario & Luigi now. I've already posted my review, because my reviews are based on... I only write a review when I'm confident that I've experienced enough of the game to be able to talk about it. It's very rare I get to finish a game before I review it, because I do my games writing as a hobby. I don't do it as a job. Therefore, I don't have the time to complete games, like, especially the amount of games I've had recently to review. I just don't have the time. But yeah, I've been playing those and a secret other game.
Love it. Love it. Absolutely love it. Can't wait for you to be able to talk about this in full at some point, because I'm really excited for this game.
By next week, I'm past the first embargo, so I can actually talk a little bit about it. So next week.
Yes. Awesome sauce. I can't wait. As for me, I've been on Divinity Original Souls 2, just like Dillips over here. I didn't play the first one. You played the first one, right, Daniel?
No, I didn't. So basically, what happened was a friend recommended it to me because of its high review scores, and I can completely understand why they gave it the high review scores.
I see.
Now. It's just a question of time. Like, how long is this game? I don't actually know. I think it's going to be a really long game, though. I would imagine it would be, because it's taken ages to complete a few levels in the game.
I'm expecting it so as well. And it is kind of tough as well. I mean, I'm really digging the difficulty.
Oh, and it's also, what some people don't know is it's actually turn-based, which surprised me. But it's like XCOM. That's a weird comparison, but it's a bit like XCOM 2.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, and it's so in depth. Like, if you've got like a puddle and you use an electrical spell or something like that, it will shock the pool. So anyone going through it will take electrical damage. Or if there's blood, you can actually freeze the blood, and it turns into an icy, bloody surface.
Ooh.
Anyway, I'm not going to go too much in depth with that.
Icy, bloody surfaces.
Yeah.
Amazing. Right. Okay, so we got a lot to talk about, and like we said, Daniel's on the show today because we have to talk about the latest Street Fighter V developments. So we're just going to jump right into the news. Let's start with something that is not exactly controversial. It's something to kind of be expected at this point with new tech, but hey, whatever. Let's put this as our little bit of controversy, shall we? So Sony has announced an updated version of PSVR, codenamed, I think it's ZV2 instead of ZV1, which is the first headset. Now, the main difference is they've actually put some quality of life stuff, so it reduces the amount of cables that are running around your head. And there, you can also embed like the little headset it has into the back of the headset over here, so it doesn't tangle up on your neck and stuff, which is great quality of life stuff. But the meat of this all is the processing unit, because now the second headset has a new processing unit that actually enables HDR imaging. And unfortunately, that new processing unit is not compatible with the first headset. Which means if you are an early adopter of PSVR, you can't really just buy that little new processing unit separately. Wah, wah, wah.
See, I don't really have any thoughts on this because I'm not interested in VR anyway. So I knew the technology would update. I couldn't care less about VR. There's so far not been a single gaming experience on VR that I wouldn't have much preferred playing just with a pad sitting in front of a TV.
That's
does,
fair. That's
yeah.
fair.
Oh,
The thing is that with new tech like this, you can expect like these updates to happen, and they're probably not going to be compatible with each other. So that's the nature of just kind of being an early adopter. And there are lots of people who are getting all apeshit about this, but you know, it's like, guys, you bought it early. This is what happens. It's the nature of things, right? I'm all in for VR. The thing is, I can't justify it quite yet because I don't feel like there's an experience out there that really will grab me to get PSVR. But it's getting there. I mean, Resident Evil 7 is a huge example of what VR could actually be like in the future for gaming. And yeah, moving on because the future is bright and we're all
if you like.
What? What was that, Daniel?
I said I could throw in my 2 cents if you like.
Yeah, by all means, like just throw it in whenever.
I see this as just a general as an advance in technology. Sometimes they can't help if they release new hardware. It's like phones are now migrating, especially Samsung phones, to USB-C connectors, and it's just people just have to like catch up. They just have to invest a bit more money into. That's just the nature of technology. Things just don't stay still.
Mm-hmm.
USB-C, for example.
That's an incredibly good point. Yeah, that is an amazingly good point. Moving on.
In terms of people being a bit sad that things are moving on, Tabata saying that he won't be taking over the 7 remake, Final Fantasy 7. I should specify that. Usually when I say a number, I know that I mean Final Fantasy, but everyone else wouldn't. That's upset a few fans. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm not entirely pleased that 7's being remade anyway.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the similar boat as well. I mean, 7 is such an iconic game. Remaking it.
I mean, the thing which worries me most is there's certain aspects, certain parts of 7's charm that are very tied to the time it was released in. So I don't know how they would do them now. The key thing which comes to mind is the Honeybee Inn. How they would do the Honeybee Inn now in the society we live in now without losing any of the weird, slightly uncomfortable quirkiness of the Honeybee Inn, I have no idea how they're going to do it. But to be fair, if Tabata doesn't think he can do it justice, then really, as a fan of 7, if he doesn't feel like he can do it justice, then I don't think it should happen. Just that's harsh, but I think
those were my thoughts actually as well. I mean, if Tabata doesn't want to do it, then there's got to be something wrong. I mean, he's a smart man. He knows how to push a project. If he doesn't want to do it, that doesn't sound like a guy who feels like he can't do it justice. It sounds like a guy who feels like this shouldn't happen. I don't want this on my conscience, is what he's saying. Listen, guys, listen to this.
That's a great way of putting it. Actually, I don't want it on my conscience. Wow.
Right. Well, consciences aside, we're all very conscious right now of the existence of Cuphead, and lots of people are as well because there's like 300,000 copies on Steam that have been sold right now of Cuphead. One of those people is Daniel over here.
Oh, of course.
And from what we understand, you're really enjoying it so far.
Yeah. I love the boss battles. Obviously, I think that's the main sort of thrust of the appeal of the game, and but also it's the art style. It's it's just what surprises me is the different sort of modes the bosses have. So you kill them once, and then they'll switch into something different, and then sometimes it'll be like, wow, that's so much better. That's so much cooler than the previous form. And you've got to learn the attack patterns and stuff like that. I'm getting to the point now where I'm finding it kind of not easy, but learning the game at the early stages and learning how to parry is sort of skills sort of pass across. But it really is the art style that sort of makes it amazing, and the old-fashioned references. So, for example, one of the boss's names is Helderberg, so referencing the Hildeberg disaster in America, I think it was. So there was some sort of air balloon, and the actual boss was a airborne woman that could turn into different things, and she looks like a hot air balloon kind of thing.
See,
that game looks charming. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say the thing that I'm finding most endearing about Cuphead, more than anything else, is the soundtrack. I've actually been listening to the soundtrack, the OST on YouTube, and it is phenomenal.
Yeah, the whole charm of it, like the sound, the OST is amazing. The 1930s art style animation's crazy good. Like this whole game has this amazing charm. And then I watched Dillips play it on stream and dying and getting ragey and all that. It's just like I don't know. There's something about this whole experience that feels like it ties very nicely. I hope we get to see more of this in the future.
Yeah, I mean, especially that tower boss. I'm not spoiling anything, but the tower boss is like a nightmare. It's just, it's kind of you just have to learn the pattern.
Right on. So moving on. Yeah.
Moving on to other successes. We might as well move on to other successes. BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle, which obviously. I think anime fighters are outside of Dillips' persuasion, but you and me, Akibana, are so excited about Cross Tag Battle, and based on the footage that that we've seen from the New York Comic Con, I believe, we have seen which has now been confirmed to be a placeholder of the character select screen, but we can glean a few pieces of information from that screen. So, for instance, there's 7 per franchise, it appears, by the character select screen, which could make some really horrible characters being on the cutting room floor, I must admit. That's going to be some hard choices for the dev, let's put it that way. But the most interesting bit is the etc. bar. There's a bar labelled etc. So, with no characters on it, 7 spaces. Who knows what that means? Does that mean DLC?
Could it be?
Does that mean DLC? Does that mean characters that aren't necessarily from the other 4 games? So could we potentially see Guilty Gear characters? Etc. could mean anything, and that's the most infuriating thing about it. It could be anything. That could be DLC. It could be the boss characters. If there's boss characters for each franchise, it could be that. It's annoying. It's really annoying seeing an etc. bar with no clue as to what it means. But Cross Tag Battle, I've seen it in motion and it looks beautiful. It looks like Marvel, but with actual control and with not as much mess going on, which is ideal. It's a similar sort of concept to Dragon Ball FighterZ, where there's a lot going on, but it never looks like it's out of the player's control like Marvel does.
I'm just gonna say Ruby auto main. That's it.
What, with her shotgun scythe?
With her shotgun scythe, Lolita costume, big scythe. What the hell? I want to start watching that show. I haven't watched that on YouTube. I have to start watching that. I mean, I'm already sucked in. And the game is going to be super accessible as well. Like they're doing some really smart things to make it like really accessible. There are only quarter circle motions. There's like there are 2 button what's it called, dragon punches. Like you press 2 buttons and you do a dragon punch, but everybody has this. And what else? I mean, I think the heavy attack is also an overhead universally. Like some crazy shit.
And not to mention, it looks like the characters that they've brought from franchises out, because overall the aesthetic, you can see it is BlazBlue. It's obvious, but the characters they brought in from other games, they have. It's only subtly, but the way that they are aesthetically moved into the new game makes sense within the BlazBlue universe. They've made characters from Undernight that look a lot more anime than BlazBlue characters. They've made them look like they work in that universe. So I'm very happy. I'm very happy so far. I just want that game out now.
Yeah.
I'm not patient enough.
Maybe I'm not patient enough at all. Well, I think they've slated that for what, like middle of 2018 or something. I don't think they even said anything. What am I talking about? I don't want to misinform people. Yeah. So I don't know. Like moving on to this next point, I don't know if you remember we talked about Middle Earth: Shadow of War, Ruben, a few episodes ago.
Yes, I remember.
The microtransactions on that one, single player game. Have you heard of this, Dillips?
To be honest, I haven't. I don't have any great opinion on it.
Right, so Shadow of War is a Lord of the Rings based game, and the first one was actually really good, and apparently the second one is very good as well. But the controversial thing about it was that it's a single player game with microtransactions, XP boosts, and loot boxes.
Didn't they say something about? Didn't the developer say something about not wanting to have DLC? I'm misunderstanding that.
I don't think in that sense that they wanted DLC. They didn't want things like, characters and stuff, but apparently the things that you can unlock in the game, you can also get them quicker through microtransactions.
Okay.
Now, IGN in their review gave the game a score of 9 out of 10, which is amazing. And but I want to talk about a quote of the reviewer who said that about the microtransactions, ignore them because you'd be paying to have less fun.
Yeah.
So
I
effectively,
remember that.
So apparently one of the fun things about this game is unlocking the Uruks. And if you're unlocking them through microtransactions, you're effectively robbing yourself of the enjoyment of doing the fights and the battles and all that stuff.
Well, I mean, there was this partially related, but Dead Space 2 had DLC where you could basically buy, like at the beginning, like health packs. You could actually spend real money on like a health pack and some ammo and stuff, like a welcome pack or something like that. And I'm just thinking, well, why on earth would you do that? Why on earth it's meant to be a horror game? You're meant to like play it through and steadily build up your character and stuff like that. So I'm just completely against this practice.
I can explain why that happened with Dead Space, and that was EA.
Oh yeah, Dead Space 2, but yeah, he had
because Visceral Games, the people that made Dead Space 1, 2, and 3, they didn't want that sort of economy in it. And Dead Space 2 wasn't designed to have that sort of economy in it, but then EA with their trundling fucking briefcase of money came in, and all of a sudden there's microtransaction in a game that completely break the focus, and then Dead Space 3 ended up being a complete mess because that process was already there and it just grew. And yeah,
the scariest thing about Dead Space 3 was the microtransactions.
Yes, precisely. The Necromorphs by that point were not threatening in comparison to the great big dollar sign shining in the middle of the game. I've got such a bee in my bonnet about microtransactions, I really do.
Yeah.
Well, sadly, they're here to stay.
They better bloody not be. However, there is something positive. I'm so glad that we had that negative thing in between Cross-Tag Battle and this. Horizon Zero Dawn, the best game of this year, in my opinion, at the moment, maybe excluding something, is getting a complete edition. December 5th, it's getting a complete edition with the new DLC that comes out on mid-November, the new DLC, the Frozen Wilds, plus also all of the deluxe edition extras. So a complete edition with everything, and it's December 5th, and I couldn't promote to people more buying this game. If you have a PS4, there are 2 games you need on it. Horizon Zero Dawn is one, and Bloodborne's the other. If you don't have those games, you have not used the PS4 for what it needs to be used for. And I know how reductive that statement is, but those 2 games perfectly sum up why the PS4 is better than the Xbox One, in my opinion. They have
I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's Horizon looks like an amazing game. I didn't have time to fit it into my schedule, but this complete edition just seems like perfect for my situation because it includes the new DLC that's coming out as well. And it's December 5th, which kind of goes into like that very, very, I don't know, how can I put it, crowded zone of my gaming life, and that's gonna be it's gonna make everything worse. But yeah, I'm really excited. That's a great move, I think. These complete editions.
Well, the good thing is we've now got, in the Christmas period, so like November, December time, we've now got 3 complete editions of 3 games that have been phenomenally well received. Because we've got Horizon Zero on PS4, I mean. So we've got Horizon, then we've got Neo Complete Edition, and Resident Evil 7 Complete Edition. All coming before the end of the year. So anyone who's missed these games, they've got the time now. They can catch up. Kinda, maybe.
It's one of those problems we want to have, and at the same time we don't want to have. It's really bananas.
Yeah.
Dillips, there's a reason for you to get a PS4.
Oh, yeah, maybe. The Metascore is 89 for this on Metacritic for Horizon Zero Dawn, so that's pretty good.
It is
really good.
Considering it's, all the critics, like based on an average, so that's pretty good. Is it just available on? Yeah, it's just available on PS4.
It's a PS4 exclusive, sadly. Yeah.
It is indeed.
Tears. Yeah,
then
I mean that's what I'm talking about. Like, exclusivity really isn't great. I mean, look, see, I can't play. Well, Ruben can't play Cuphead. You can't play Horizon. Isn't
ah,
that sad?
but there's a solution. Ruben, just watch my streams, and then you
There
won't
you
I
have to
go.
play it.
no, I need to play that game. I need to.
Yeah.
Real gamers watch and play at the same time. That's how it goes. And speaking of how everything goes, because with every Pokemon game lately, we need to have an upgraded version of it as well. Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon has another trailer recently where apparently you're going to be traveling through wormholes and going into other regions. That's what I got out of that trailer.
Bless me.
Bless you, God. You've got a cold, don't you?
It appears so.
Whoa. I'm glad I'm not next to you then. No offense.
Thanks.
So yeah, so basically, yeah, you'll be able to travel through wormholes. There's gonna be another faction. I forget what the name was. Kind of like the Team Rocket of the game. I don't know. So yeah, there's gonna be plenty more to do besides going through the Aloha region. And you're gonna have other like mystical dimensions to visit. Yeah, so that's
Wow.
Pokemon.
I don't care for Pokemon, so could not care less. But we've had more Nintendo news. Miiverse officially shutting down on October 11th. That is so sad.
It
Me,
is.
like Miiverse was one of the best creations to come out of the Wii U. I mean, the Wii U, let's be honest, wasn't great for much, but it had some great games, and it invented Miiverse, which was such a good community. I mean, it had its dodgy moments, of course it did. Any community does, but Miiverse was such a wholesome and such a lovely idea that it's such a shame to lose it, really. And
And Dillips was so sad that he was crying just now.
Yeah, I was so sad. I was so sad. Like, I remember going on Miiverse on the Wii, and it was like there would be people dressed up as Hitler and stuff like that, and penises and like really weird stuff because they could
Yeah.
make the characters. It was quite creative, to be fair to them. But yeah, rest in peace, Miiverse. It had some charm, but now it's dead.
Well, it still lives on in a way. I mean, Splatoon 2 still has the ability to kind of post little pictures, which is what one of the aspects of Miiverse anyway. So Splatoon 2 is kind of, let's just say, the kind of slightly kind of living on of Miiverse, but it's such a shame to see the service go after so many years.
Yeah, I think it was kind of cute. I know it sounds weird, but it's like a cute little thing they've got there.
Well, cute games are all the rage, apparently, and there are people out there who have been craving for a new Psychonauts. And since Psychonauts 2 has been talked about, has been rumored about, and this and that, suddenly now, developer has come out and said, we're in the prototyping phase. So the game, we have an engine for it, we're able to actually play the game, and apparently from the images that have come out of the alpha version, it looks really polished already. I don't know if any of you have played Psychonauts.
I did, but only briefly, so I don't. For me in Psychonauts 2, I'm just like, oh, I'll deal with that later.
Not even. I haven't even tried. I don't, no.
No. Well, apparently there's a lot of people who really dug the first game, so yeah, Psychonauts 2 is happening, people. It's gonna be made, so yeah, hold on to your horses there.
And one last bit of positive news before we get on to the big chunk. Analysts expect Microsoft's mixed reality headset to outsell the Oculus. I must admit I'm not overly surprised at that. The Oculus is the highest priced VR, is it not? If I'm not mistaken.
More or less, yeah.
And also it's good that they've reported that that Microsoft's one works well on kind of lower end machines, because there needs to be because at the moment quite a lot of them are either far too consumer or far too high end. They need to have one which kind of branches or are exclusive, because the PSVR is kind of in the middle. It's not too consumer based, it's not too high end in terms of tech, but because it's exclusive to PlayStation, it kind of eliminates a large swathe of the potential audience for VR. Whereas having one that works on multiple different machines and is kind of a nice midpoint, as long as it has the right price, I do not see why it wouldn't outsell the Oculus.
I think it's been estimated at 400 or 500, but considering that it doesn't require a beast of a machine to run, I think that could be fair. And
Yeah.
it's a mixed reality headset. It's not just VR. It's mixed reality. It means it's also AR, from what I understand.
So yeah, in which case, considering the amount of tech in it, that's also still cheaper than Oculus, isn't it?
I
Just
think.
about. Yeah.
I think maybe some of our listeners could clarify that. Right. So yeah, VR is definitely a big thing in my opinion, but it still needs to have those better experiences, more gaming, real gaming experiences. But it's getting there. It's definitely getting there. So let's jump in to the big stuff today. The reason we have this person sandwich between us today. Capcom recently announced Street Fighter V Arcade Edition, an expansion, a free update for people who already own Street Fighter V, but will also be coming out as own disc for $40, including the 2 seasons of DLC characters. Yay!
Hey!
Right, Daniel. Right off the bat, your thoughts.
My thoughts are as follows. Capcom could have so easily charged this as DLC. I know it would have damaged their reputation, but their reputation at the moment is being very DLC heavy. I'm so appreciative that they've done this for free. It's like a love note to the Street Fighter V community, because we desperately need. We desperately need. Everyone's been crying out for an arcade mode. I'm not particularly bothered, but I think it would attract a wider market if they had the arcade mode there. Also, there's a new lick of paint to the UI, which it desperately needs, because one of my criticisms of the game at the moment is it feels very clinical, very stale, almost like it's a beta test. The menu just doesn't, it lacks something, and I think the gold looks really nice. And they're adding a second. Do you want me to generally give my impressions on?
You're doing great.
Just keep going.
The news.
Yeah, you're doing great.
The second V trigger, I think, is really needed in this, because at the moment I feel that certain characters really suffer on certain matchups, and it just gives it that little extra choice. Now, the jury's out whether or not the actual V triggers are going to be any good, but so far from what I've seen, I'm excited about it, and I think it will attract people that weren't interested in it initially to come back to it and check out the new V triggers. So yeah, that's really exciting. Also, the battle mode, where they have basically versions of Street Fighter, Street Fighter 2, Street Fighter Alpha, Street Fighter 3, Street Fighter 4, and Street Fighter 5 only battle mode. So you go through and you just fight all those characters. So for example, in Street Fighter 2 version, you just fight Street Fighter 2 characters. I don't know how that's going to work. Like, what do you get? Fight money? Do you unlock images and stuff like that? Because there's going to be a gallery mode now, so it's going to give you more incentive to play. I feel at the moment, if you go, for example, on ranked matches, your only incentive is to get points and money, fight money. But now you're going to unlock images and stuff like that, and I think that's going to certainly encourage me to play the game more. So there's going to be a lot more reasons to play. As for balancing, that's going to be really difficult with a second V trigger. However, it's going to make it more in depth. So I'm really, really optimistic about this.
Ruben, on to you.
Well, where to start? Going back to one of the things that Dillips said about the gold UI, I absolutely love it. I think it looks great. It looks very... Because they're aiming for Street Fighter V to be a spectacle. They're aiming for it to be very key in terms of esports. So therefore, having a very, very gaudy UI really works with that mentality. It really works, and that aesthetic really works for that. Plus, also, I cannot remember who said it. If someone knows, like, please say in the comments or let me know on Twitter or something. But somebody actually used the very, very hilarious term to say that Street Fighter V has finally gone gold. So playing not only on the UI but playing on the fact that Street Fighter V is finally actually ready for release, which I think is very hilarious, very, very funny, very clever.
I couldn't have put it better myself. I mean, it's crazy.
Very, very clever. Speaking as I do play in tournaments, but I am a more casual player of fighting games, most definitely. The addition of more single player modes is a very good reason for me to get back into the game, because I miss arcade modes. I mean, one of the main modes I play in BlazBlue, for instance, is arcade mode because it's so hard to find damn matches. But it's one of the main modes I play. So to finally have an arcade mode, and not only that, but to call it Arcade Edition. So no matter how distant the fans will be, that the fan that liked Street Fighter but doesn't like 5 would be from Street Fighter 5, there's no way that they wouldn't notice it's called Arcade Edition. So therefore, the main problem a lot of people had with Street Fighter 5 was the lack of single player modes, and there is very clearly in the title that it will have a single player mode. Plus also the ability that someone who's coming in now, well, January when it comes, will be able to have. Oh wow, this cold spreading. To be able to come in at a late point, so about roughly 2 years into, and have all of the characters out of the bat is a great call, because it allows people to learn matchups and all of that sort of stuff when they're new to the franchise, which is very, very good. The only problem I have is that a lot of these changes, a lot of these decisions seem to be made for the better progression of the esports side rather than the other players' side. So the change of the UI, that's to make it look more impressive for esports. The addition of the additional V trigger, it gives more player agency in terms of combos and everything, but that's still for esports. It's still for the spectacle. I would have to reserve judgment on Arcade Edition fully until I see what they're doing with this single player mode thing. If the single player mode is robust enough and it actually gives enough rewards to the player for doing it, so like, as Dillips said, fight money, I'm sold. But until that point, it does appear that they're still courting exactly the same audience they always have done, and it just seems like a kind of a cheap way of doing it.
I have a very strong instinct that the arcade mode, when you complete arcade mode as a certain character, you get an image as a ending. It's like a story.
Yeah, they're doing a comics style kind of ending thing, which I'm really digging. Although I'm not in love with Bengus's latest work on 5, I'll have to say that.
With the addition of a second V-trigger also, it's going to make my life a bit harder, because at the moment I'm currently... These are my notes basically for Rashid's, V-trigger setups. Like,
what the?
That's
Look
commitment.
at this guy.
That's
Look
commitment.
At this pro over here, man. Somebody sponsor this man.
and that as well. All color coded, so I know exactly. So I mean, this is pretty much going to double my workload as far as finding any setups and stuff like that, which is great. I've seen some screenshots. So for example, Rashid, his V trigger, for his second one, judging from the screenshot, it looks like powered up fireballs. So it's like mini big tornadoes instead of one big tornado. That's what it looks like on the screenshot.
Because that's exactly what Rashid needed.
Yes,
Yep.
more tornadoes.
Exactly. And Mika, it's not very clear, but you see Nadesco hitting someone with a chair, which is funny because...
That blew my mind. Is that a V trigger? I thought it was maybe a V skill.
Well, you can't choose a different V skill unless they're...
As Akibana... Sorry, I hope you don't mind me pointing this out for you, Akibana. But as Akibana pointed out, in that screenshot, Mika still has full V system meter.
No, that's not entirely correct. Mika's used her V trigger, so it could be that there's a timer on it, and on that time, Nadesco comes out and helps our Mika.
But
this
even
is the early stages.
But it's still got both blocks filled in. There's no meter running down or anything.
I better double check.
Akibana pointed that out, and I looked at the screenshot. And I was like, ha. They've still got full V trigger, so it can't be a V trigger.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I've checked it, and yeah, it says 2, but it is 2 V trigger, number 2 V trigger, and 3 bars are still there, so it's not been used. So yeah, you're right in that respect.
There's one more thing though to keep in mind, that this could be in training mode where they have like the V meter replenishes very quickly, but I don't think it's fast enough that the move comes out and then the bar is full. I mean, I'm kind of weirded out by this.
No, unless it's infinite. Unless the training settings are set to infinite.
Fair enough.
Or maybe
Well, could be. But even still, like, Nadeshko coming out and whacking you with a chair is pretty cool. And
apparently. Oh, yeah, yeah.
Bison apparently is getting Psycho Crusher back in some form. Whether now it probably is his his second V trigger. Maybe it's also another special. I'm not gonna say no.
I've seen a screenshot with Dalsim, and apparently his second V trigger is airborne fireballs, as in when he's in the air, he can throw fireballs.
What?
And he was doing that you know that move where he spins down.
The drill, yeah.
The drill, yeah. He was doing a fireball while doing that. So what the fuck?
Okay, so maybe the ultimate zoning character then. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Because we need more representation. That's one of the things that I'm hoping like this update does, is that it brings back more playstyles. Because God, I don't know, guys. I can't handle Rushdown Guile, Rushdown Dalsim, like these characters having to resort to playing Rushdown playstyle just so they can remotely compete in this game.
One of the things I would like to see is another defense mechanism. So, for example, my idea would be just defend, like in other Capcom games. So basically, if you defend at the last minute, you get less blocks done, and it's your turn.
Well,
that would actually be very nice.
Pushing that further, more defensive options in general are needed in Street Fighter V.
Better, yeah, maybe they need to kind of bring back, I think, better SRKs, the invincible SRKs, or this just defend sounds like very technical to me, and I think that it's actually a very good idea to put in this. But to me, the most egregious thing that 5 introduced was V reversal, because it's an insult. I have to say, as a mechanic, it's a complete insult. It's expensive to use. You spend 1 V meter, which is very precious for most of the cast, to do what? Literally nothing.
Well, it's to get the pressure off, and it gives you relief. It really can turn the tide of battle.
In certain senses, but Chun-Li's, for example, is absolutely terrible. But Chun-Li's the worst at handling pressure.
At the moment, yeah. She's been nerfed, but she's still got really good normals. You know, if your execution's on point, she can do quite a lot of damage. Admittedly, not as much as the other cast, but she still is really... If you play it solid, standing heavy kick, standing heavy punch, you know, some well-timed fireball, she's really annoying to get into. And also, anti-standing light kick is really good. People should use it.
It's still quite good. I would say it still trades a lot, though. But anyway, we're getting a little too technical here.
Yeah. But arcade mode, and that's I think was needed. The UI update, I would say it's good for the esports scene, but it's also good for casuals, because casuals are going to see the game and they're going to make a judgment immediately on it. Whereas people like me who are really into Street Fighter, I sort of forgave the crappy UI initially when buying it, but I know casual players will see it and will make a decision to buy or not based on how it looks. And I would say that Street Fighter V could have been called Street Fighter V Gold Edition. I think that would have, for me, that sounds better. But I understand why they called it
Edition.
Yeah.
It's like... literally gone gold. Let's just take the joke to literal direction.
Yeah, I think so. It's a theme. It's a roulette wheel on the character select, and it's a gold background.
The only issue I have with that is that usually, if a game is releasing a gold edition, it contains all previous DLC, and I don't think Capcom would be pleasant enough to their fan base to allow all DLC in a version that they release. So, like, all costumes, they have to charge for something because it's Capcom. So they wouldn't release a gold. I don't think Capcom would ever release a gold edition of a fighting game, because they wouldn't be able to get any money from Chun-Li having another 30 outfits.
Oh, she needs all the outfits.
She does. Both her and Laura need more outfits.
They need
fashionistas.
They're fair, yeah. Well, I also need to make a little bit of clarification, because when I did my reaction video, I think I kind of said that, you know, if you have the base game and you get this update for free and it includes Season 1 and Season 2 characters, That's only if you buy the new disc, the arcade edition disc. If you own the base game, you get the update for free, but you don't get all the characters. You get the update for free, not the characters, if you own the base game. So that's just clarification right over there, which kind of makes sense because, yeah, it kind of that just
That's why I bought
that's
the
just gonna
season
mean
pass.
that a lot of people can go out and buy secondhand the base game and automatically they would have all the characters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also you've got to factor in the fact that Street Fighter V on PSN has been in constant sales. So there's that. You can get a copy of Street Fighter V for around about £20 to £25 if you know where to shop. So if they had that and then were able to get all of the characters in January, that would be a little bit of an insult to those that are buying, and also it would affect the sales of Arcade Edition as a base game.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, okay, at least they kind of thought of that. Yeah, but anyway, that was just a clarification right over there. I need to make a bit of a criticism on the name because I recently had a chat with a guy who's not exactly a Street Fighter player. He's hasn't played a lot, but he's kind of into gaming and he knows a few things. When I told him the game is called Arcade Edition, he immediately took his mind back to when the actual arcade edition of a game, a coin-op edition of a game, was superior to that of a console. And he thought, oh, so now they're taking the arcade version that they had and putting it into the game. And I said, no, there's not even an arcade version of this game. It's like, so why are they calling it this? So I feel the name might be ever so slightly confusing to some. I still feel like calling it something like Super Street Fighter V or even calling it Street Fighter V Gold Edition or something would have been far better than arcade. I just think it's going to be confusing.
I think the perception is there that arcade editions are always better than the regular edition. I think that's where they go. That's their mindset. Like in Japan, I think they have a lot of arcades, so maybe that's why. Or maybe it's just because it's got the arcade mode, which everyone's been crying out for. But at least if you look on Facebook.
Also, to clarify, I think they are doing a Street Fighter V arcade, a Street Fighter V kind of actual arcade edition for arcades. I'm pretty sure I read something to do with they're in conversation with Taito to actually make an actual arcade machine, which seems to be launching around about the same time, if I'm not mistaken. So there is going to be an arcade. So we can only presume that this version is going to be the same as the actual arcade build, I would have thought. Yeah, I mean, I can't deny that Super Street Fighter V would have sounded better. I cannot deny that. But the problem we have, all three of us actually have, is because we're already invested in the FGC, we cannot actually view this as someone who isn't a fan of fighting games. We can't view this as a casual player. So for all we know, casual players might hear Arcade Edition and go, "Oh, okay, it's getting the thing we want," or they might hear Arcade Edition and go, "Okay, they're releasing a new version of Street Fighter V, which they said they wouldn't do," or they might be the even more casual player where they're like, "Oh, Street Fighter V, it's getting a complete version. I might as well get it now because I get all the DLC." So we can't really see it as a actual casual player would. But I can't deny that Super Street Fighter V would have been a better name.
And then you could release Ultra Street Fighter V. Like now, you get in rankings, you get Silver, Super Silver, Ultra Silver, Gold, Super Gold, Ultra Gold. They could have done it like that, but I think, Ruben, the reason why they didn't do that is because they said early on that they won't be releasing, and they used as an example, Super Street Fighter V. To allay the fears. So if they go back, then somebody could... I don't know if someone could lawyer up and sue Capcom for lying. I don't know if that's an actual thing.
No, they should sue them for Marvel vs. Capcom first.
Oh, shots fired.
Hey! But that's a good catch there, Daniel. I mean, I hadn't thought of that. The wording they used back then, it kind of painted them in the corner, I think.
Yeah, so that kind of eliminated that option, I think, for them. Because then they'd have been seen as flip-flopping and, they don't need the extra negativity. Arcade mode, Arcade Edition is, for me, an okay title. It's okay.
It's okay.
I'll take it. I'll take it. really, to be honest, really, it's not gonna make too much of a difference in the long term. Thankfully, it's just a, it's just, it's just a stupid title, and they're gonna release
I can agree
DLC
to that.
anyway.
Yeah.
Well, no, they're gonna release new characters anyway, which aren't DLC. You can buy them for fight money, which
Yeah.
I'm gonna do.
Indeed. Well, so in order to close this off, I'd like to ask you guys a question. So we already know what they're gonna do with they've told us what is gonna be included into this update, but probably they're gonna do a few more things to improve the gaming experience and everything. So I'd like to hear your little maybe wish lists of what else you would hope would be included and what you hope could be included in this update. So I'm gonna start with Ruben.
Oh wow! As in terms of mechanical alterations.
Anything whatsoever. It could be naked costumes. I don't know, whatever.
What I'd like to see a return of is I'd like to see a return of themed packs for all characters of costumes. Because my personal favourite, because I wasn't a massive fan of Ultra Street Fighter 4, but I loved the animal set for everyone. Because it showed a real sense of creativity in making every single character look different, but also have this themed pack across the whole thing. I'm not appreciating this. Certain characters get this pack. Certain characters get this, but I do not like it. It does not feel cohesive or coherent across the whole game for me. So the fact that only certain characters have school outfits, the fact that only certain characters each year have got Halloween outfits, just give every character a Halloween outfit, you lazy fucks. You've got the time, you've got the money, because you've been charging for DLC the whole time. Plus also the Capcom Pro Tour must get you some money. Make themed outfits for the whole character set. It's not that hard. Dead or Alive have been doing it for years.
Hall Monitor Nekali for the win.
Oh,
right,
also,
what about you, Daniel? Keep going.
Second thing, add a second V skill for every character, because some characters' V skills are significantly better than others, and it would help with balance if every character had 2 V skills that you could pick from and 2 V triggers. It will make character selection a little bit longer overall, but it would give the players more agency in terms of flexibility with their characters. And now go to Dillips.
Very well. I think what I'd like to see is you could choose your own win quotes, and there's 4 generic ones and 1 opponent versus opponent one. For a certain opponent. I'd like to see different taunts. So at the moment in Street Fighter 4, you could have 11 taunts or 10 taunts, but in Street Fighter 5, you only get 1 taunt. I think they should add 10 taunts for each character. I would like also some different V reversals, because I feel like Rashid has his V reversals purely defensive, it's purely to escape. And I think other characters would appreciate having defensive V reversals to choose from. Because then you could
something like an escape mechanism, basically.
Yeah, exactly. I would like some ability to customize the music that plays against certain characters. Now I know you can customize it to a certain extent, but I would like it so that you could choose which tracks, so more options in terms of what music you want played. So say you love the jury theme, that you could have the jury theme playing regardless of which character that you play against. I would also like some more options in the shop. I feel like the fight money doesn't really get you much other than titles. And okay, you can save for those big things. So for example, new characters, new stages. What about the little things like changing the UI of the actual timer, like in Tekken? Why can't you, customize that? Because not everyone likes gold as well. So you could have character specific ones. Like Rashid could be like a wind or something, or Ken's could be like fire. Something like that. Something that you can spend a small amount of money on your fight money on something which makes the game look better. Also, maybe make the ranked system less punishing for people who are highly ranked. They've gone some way in doing that. So, for example, if me as a Super Diamond loses against a Platinum, they get 145. I think it's Platinum or Super Platinum. They get 145 points plus I get minus 104. So it's not exactly the same. I'd like to see that to maybe 75. Because at the moment, it's kind of... I kind of don't like playing ranked because I know I'm gonna lose so many ranked points.
I think Tekken 7 did that, has done the ranking system a bit better. It's like, it's not the kind of ranking, like, let me put it this way. In Street Fighter 5, it's a universal ranking that everybody, follows, and you depend a lot on where everybody else is.
Yeah.
But in Tekken, the ranking is just attached to you, and you don't lose your rank. It's not like the game is telling you, oh, you lost to a couple of opponents, you're probably worse now, so boom. Like, but it doesn't work like that. It's not like, your rank it shouldn't, like, in a single player game like this, your rank shouldn't be attached to like what everybody else is doing, because at the end of the day, I mean, your skill will depend, your promotion will depend on how well you are doing. But the current system is telling you that other people are getting better, so that means you're getting worse. And
Yeah.
that is just knocking you down for no reason. I think personally, it's punishing, like you mentioned, and at the same time, it's very discouraging. I don't play ranked. I don't want to play ranked anymore because online is punishing due to lag and all of that. My opponents sometimes play something cheesy, or they decide to lag switch me, whatever. There's a lot of this stuff going on. So,
I'd say. Oh, sorry.
yeah, go ahead.
What I was going to say was also I'm a training mode junkie. And what I'd like to see is the ability to customize myself during the recording of my opponent's moves. Now you may think, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? Customize the... So basically, when you go to recording, you basically, your opponent, when you press record to do a certain set of moves, if I knock down my character, I can't have him I can't have him do a normal recovery. He sort of lays there and does a normal recovery. But there's setups dependent on them doing normal recovery, back recovery. I would like to see an option to set the settings for the player one during the recording stage to either back recovery, normal recovery, or block after first attack and stuff like that. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I kind of get what you're saying. Yeah, you're basically saying that player 2 can be customized in that sense, but player 1 cannot. So
Exactly.
you want the customization to be with player 1 as well. So basically just take the options that player 2 has and put them in player 1 as well.
Exactly. So during recording or something like that, have an option like that. Because at the moment you have to sort of go to character select and then you have to find a way around it, kind of thing. You really have to like do some ridiculous stuff. I've a tip for everyone watching: when you're doing on training mode, when you're recording, and I've never heard anyone say this, and I don't know why, but when you're doing training, when you're recording what they're going to do, just neutral jump first and land. So then it gives you sort of a cue as to when it's going to happen. Because at the moment it's quite difficult to tell when it's going to start. So jump when they land and then they do their thing. It's just easy to, get the timing down.
Dillips senpai with the
with
tips.
The tips.
Yeah, it's such and to everyone learning Street Fighter 5, training mode is so essential. It may not be. I find it quite fun, but for a lot of people it's not fun. But when you play it and when you learn certain things, like I would have never known without using training mode that Rashid's standing light kick has the best hit stun or block stun in the game for the light kick, the standing 3-framer. It beats everyone's. So if I do a standing light kick and Ryu does a standing light punch, which is 3 frames I believe, when it trades, I can combo off that if it trades with him. So anyway,
right.
I won't get
So
to it.
do your training mode.
Yeah.
Don't be a fool. Stay in training mode by Daniel Dillips. Right, and that's Street Fighter Arcade Edition, everybody. New update coming out next year, January 16th. Free update for those who have the base game, and at $39.99 if you're buying it from scratch, with all characters included. And that's going to do it for this weekly Gaming Blast. Rue, do you have anything to share with the lovely audience?
A couple of reviews. My reviews of Mario & Luigi and Layton's Mystery Journey are both up on Nintendo Scene and RueTheGamer.com. This afternoon, in fact midday at time of recording, my tournament report from yesterday's tournament will be going up on RueTheGamer.com, And also, by the time this posts, my review of Salt and Sanctuary will be up on ruthegamer.com as well.
Awesome. What about you, Daniel? Got anything to share? Things you're doing on the internet? Whatever?
Well, I'll be streaming Cuphead at Twitch/Dillips, and you can also find me on Facebook at Daniel Dillips. Just type in Daniel Dillips on Google, and you'll find me immediately. What I would also say is I'm quite looking forward to The Evil Within 2, although I know you shake your head. I know it's probably going to be a bad game, but it's going to be fun, and I'm gonna stream it with some friends. I think, yeah.
Myself
Yeah.
included.
And
You and me together. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We'll post a link, and yeah, I'm quite looking forward to how amazingly scary that game's going to be, or how poor it's going to be, because I think the last Evil Within, it was quite bad. But I think it's going to be funny either way, and I think Rue the Gamer is a big fan of Evil Within.
Yeah, massive.
Yeah, you could see that on his face. The apathy is striking. Right. As for myself, I've already recorded an episode of Divinity Original Sin 2. I'm hoping, since I'm still on my vacation, I'm hoping to get it out before I leave. But hey, good news for you guys out there, bad news for me. My holiday is almost done. So it's going to be back to business as usual. 2 Dark Souls episodes and a bunch of other stuff as well.
Looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to
Yeah.
Dark Souls. I love it.
I'm looking forward to Dark Souls and also Divinity Sin 2. I think you've already played it, but keep playing it. It's such a rewarding
It's great.
game.
I'm loving it. It's great. It's just I have to find a way to make this work as a video a little bit because it's very slow. But yeah, hint at Dark Souls. We might be looking at another Don't Watch This. Maybe.
Oh, I love the
Oh,
Don't Watch
no.
This ones. The proper rage episodes. I love them.
So we might be looking at another one of those. We'll see. Anywho, that's going to be it for Weekly Gaming Blast. You can find all of us on the Twitters that are sitting right underneath our screens. That includes Daniel as well. Yes, you can find us there. You can find Rue at ruthegamer.com, where all of his stuff is linked. You can find his YouTube channel, his Facebook, everything over there. Daniel, as he mentioned, on Facebook at Daniel Dillips, and on the Twitters. And of course, me, you can find me on my YouTube channel right over here, and Twitters, Facebooks, and all that stuff. And that's going to do it for this Weekly Gaming Blast. Daniel, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
It was a pleasure to have
You've been amazing.
it's a pleasure to have a very knowledgeable about a particular topic person on here for once, as opposed to us who kind of get by.
Yeah, it's quite new for me to do this, but yeah, I really appreciate it.
You were great. You were great, man.
Thank you.
And yeah, that's going to do it for this week's Weekly Gaming Blast. Hope you all have a lovely week, and see you around.
See you soon.